Personal Story segment tonight, Ann Coulter causing trouble again. In her latest column on AnnCoulter.com, she says every black person in America should get a gun and join the NRA. Ms. Coulter joins us now from Los Angeles. So why are you saying that?
Well, I think that generally, but this was specifically in reaction to the Trayvon Martin case, and I won't be like some other in the media and claim to and jump to conclusions on it. We are going to have a trial, but I was just making the point that if what a certain network I could name, not Fox, is claiming happened, that George Zimmerman stalked this young black child just because he was black, shot him dead in cold blood, if that's the case, well, the reaction isn't the conclusion they're coming to on the left, which is, oh, we need more gun control. Gun control laws have been used historically. They were to keep guns out of the hands of blacks. And it was the Republican Party and the NRA that has always supported arming blacks in order to protect themselves from the Democratic Ku Klux Klan. All
right. So what you're saying is if MSNBC's and NBC News's hypothesis is true, that this was a racially bias-driven murder, that all African Americans should take that as a warning sign and arm themselves against that happening to them. Therefore, they should support the NRA. They should support the law that allows you to fight back if threatened, and they should arm themselves. That's what you're saying.
Yes, and I mean, the reason I thought of it is because liberals are leaping to exactly the opposite conclusion, that, oh, we have to get rid of these stand-your-ground laws. They're against the easy issuing of concealed carry permits. Well, as I point out in my column, Martin Luther King Jr., a Christian minister under constant death threats, applied for a gun permit after his house was firebombed. And the Alabama authorities, under the discretionary gun permit law, said, no, this Christian minister is not suitable for a gun permit. That's how discretionary permits work. People who are for gun control are trying to keep guns out of the hands of the powerless.
You know, that's an interesting, what you did was you turned the tables on the left and their agenda, there's no doubt about it. It's interesting that you cite Martin Luther King Jr. because the reason he was denied a gun permit because he was black. That was the only reason.
Yes.
If he had been a white preacher and his house was firebombed, they would have had the National Guard with bazookas protecting him. But because he was down in the South, where there was racial discrimination in every area, he was denied the gun permit. And you say that now African Americans should now understand that if what Al Sharpton and the other guys are saying is true, that they are targets of racists, white racists, and those people are coming to get them, the only protection they have is to arm themselves.
Yes, and gun control laws have always been used this way. I mean, this is the history of gun control on these shores. The very first gun control law ever enacted on these shores in 1660, all it did was say that blacks, both slaves and freemen, were not allowed to be armed. That was the battle that Republicans were fighting against Democrats, well, first through the Civil War, but then in the wake of the Civil War, you had free black American citizens, and they had a right to be armed, and among the rights they were being denied by Democrats, not Republicans in the South. I mean, the history books will often try and twist the history by referring to the KKK and the racists as Southerners. Oh, no, the Republicans in the South weren't discriminatory. And by the way, some of the Democrats up north were voting against the Civil Rights Act. The one thing all of the discriminators and the KKK sympathizers or KKK themselves had in common was they were all Democrats, and they would use things like gun registration to find out which blacks had guns so that the KKK could go in and take them away, or sometimes just informers who would be given those guns, or the May issue, which we still have on some books today, where the authorities determine whether you're suitable to have a gun, and they look at you, and if you're black, you're not suitable. If you're white, you're suitable.
Well, it's interesting that you raise this because we did a story a few months ago about an elderly man on the south side of Chicago, and we just referred to that with Dr. Hill, who was actually arrested in his home for having a gun because the drug addicts are breaking into his home every hour on the hour, taking his stuff, and he said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to get a gun. And the cops, they got him. Now, those charges were dropped, but he went national with the media and said, listen, what do you want me to do? So I think you've got, I think you've got a very good point here, that, you know, is the left really that concerned about Trayvon Martin, or are they concerned, again, once again, ramming their agenda, no matter what it is, down the throats of the American people under the guise of being sympathetic toward this poor teenager and his family? I'll give you the last word.
Yes, and I think it's important for people to know that the NRA was issuing charters to black men like Robert Williams, whom I cite. It was his book, Negroes with Guns, to fight off the Klan. He started a gun club called Armed Black Guards, and that was the end of the Klan in Monroe, North Carolina.
All right, Ann Coulter.